face of fear on everyone you meet. They come on the street, they steal their lives. We are the people, they want to take us alive. Mutilation, torture, murder, genocide, mechanics of death. All through the sky, a new heaven awaits. And after life of this, we must stand strong. We must resist. They come on the street, they steal their lives. We are the people, they want to take us alive. They call us rebels. They smear our name. We are the people. We want justice back. They come on the street, say they want to survive. We are the people, they want to get us
On the morning of April 19, 1995, a decorated Gulf War combat vet blew up the federal building in Oklahoma City using a truck bomb that he didn't build in a Ryder truck that he didn't rent with the help of a passenger who didn't exist. Having just gotten away with the largest act of terrorism on U.S. soil to date, the Fort Bragg-trained Special Forces Sheep Drip Dropout blended in with the crowd by making his getaway in a car without a license plate and was immediately pulled over. The ATF was the supposed target of the attack, but luckily all of their agents were out of the office that morning. Later that day, the president boldly declared,
We will find the people who did this.
and
When we do, justice will be swift, certain, and severe.
except for
John Doe number 2.
John Doe number 2.
John Doe number 2.
who, according to the FBI, never existed. In McVeigh's unprecedented 3.5-week trial, the prosecution didn't show the CCTV footage of him and John Doe number 2 parking the Ryder truck. Didn't explain why 24 separate witnesses mass hallucinated the existence of John Doe number 2. Didn't explain why the government was testing truck bombs and the army was storing Ryder trucks at Camp Gruber right before the bombing. And didn't talk to the FBI informants who blew the whistle on the plot. But they did collaborate with the CIA, and they did convict McVeigh as the lone wolf bomber and Terry Nichols as his bomb-constructing accomplice. Still, a bunch of crazy conspiracy theorists, including 300 bombing victims,
Uh-oh.
insist on talking about facts and evidence and refuse to simply believe what they've been told a million times by people in tailored suits with well-coiffed hair. They quote the US Army Brigadier General and the FBI crime lab whistleblower and the inventor of the neutron bomb, who point out the physical impossibility that the Ryder truck bomb did the damage to the building, but that doesn't matter because if there were other bombs...
I just want to point out there was a giant tree between the truck and the building that still stands, or well, I guess it doesn't still stand today, but was still standing after the bomb.
in the building that day, we would have heard about them.
The second explosive was found and diffused.
I think he said another bomb.
Oh man, I just screwed up. That was important and I talked over it.
Possibility that the Ryder truck bomb did the damage to the building, but that doesn't matter because if there were other bombs in the building that day, we would have heard about them.
The second explosive was found and diffused.
I think he said another bomb.
The Justice Department is reporting that a second explosive device
we
has
would have
been
heard about
found.
They then found a third device, which was also larger than the first.
And I see another bomb truck going, so
Three-
apparently they're going to try to
three
get
bombs?
out that third bomb.
The FBI claims to have lost the footage showing McVeigh and John Doe number 2 parking the truck in front of the Murrah building that morning, but that's understandable because the Bureau has a lot of important evidence to store. Terry Nichols insists the FBI was involved in the plot, but thankfully a judge has saved us the trouble of listening to him by preventing lawyers from deposing him. There was a bomb squad truck parked across the street 2 hours before the blast, but that just shows the authorities were prepared for anything. And
other documents obtained by 2020 show that someone called the Executive Secretariat's office at the Justice Department in Washington and said the Murrah building had been bombed. But this was 24 minutes before the blast.
But that just shows the public was unusually vigilant that morning. Also,
Apparently, before the bombing, Governor Frank Keating's brother, Mark, had been working on a novel about a terrorist bombing in Oklahoma City. Stranger still, one of the characters in the novel was named Thomas McVeigh.
but that's probably just a coincidence. McVeigh wrote a letter to his sister where he admitted to being a secret special forces operative, and he complained to friends of the pain in his ass from an army-implanted microchip, but that's crazy because if he didn't actually leave the army in 1991, there would be proof of that. This man never existed, and if you say otherwise, you're a crazy government-hating nutjob who deserves to be locked in a cage for the rest of your life. Likewise, him, her, them, her, and him.
I just want to say, I don't remember who she is. I'm having trouble remembering some of these people. Oh, that's Charles Key right there. That he was a state representative in Oklahoma. These are the Trentadue, or that's Terrence Yakey, and these are the Trentadue brothers. And yeah, we'll I'll get back into this here in a minute.
And him, and him. McVeigh was not executed on May 16th, 2001 as scheduled because
the FBI had failed to turn over thousands of pages of evidence to McVeigh's defense attorneys.
Imagine that.
But the execution went ahead on June 11th.
Oh, yeah, right.
In a highly unusual and secret agreement, no autopsy was performed. One witness said he was still breathing, and the prison officials admitted his hearse was a decoy.
Yep.
Then, the case was officially closed.
Just like bin Laden's body, thrown at sea.
This is the story of OKC as told to you by the same truth-tellers behind
perhaps a profoundly lonely man who craved attention but found consolation in doing good.
And
the helicopter we were traveling in was forced down after being hit by an RPG.
And
we're with the rebels. And he said, "Oh, you're with the rebels?" And they started beating him. "Oh, you're with the rebels?
These are all fake news stories, by the way.
And if you question any part of this story, you are a paranoid, wingnut, birther, truther, tenther, prepper, conspiracy loon who should feel guilty for having been born. If you love baseball, fluffy kittens, hot dogs, Barbie, Star Wars, and freedom, you will never, ever bring up any of these points ever again. Ever. This message has been brought to you by the friends of the FBI, ATF, DOJ, CIA, SPLC, MSM, and the U.S. Army. And remember, ignorance is strength.
Okay, shout out to the Corbett Report for that. It was one of his old, podcast video packages. I bring this up because today is the 30th anniversary of the Oklahoma City bombing, and the Oklahoma City bombing is always one conspiracy theory, so to speak. One truth-telling thing that really stands out to me because it's not giant on the scale of 9/11 or JFK as, necessarily affecting the whole country in the minds of most people. But for those who have followed the story very closely, and I have followed the story very closely for a number of years, the fact that it was one of the first in my lifetime of nationwide tragedies that didn't add up, where it almost seemed like the response was manufactured before the tragedy, meaning that there was, a lot of narratives about militias and anti-terror legislation being drafted and all kinds of just psyops happening in the media and on the American people. And as you saw in that video package, we had a president who, like presidents do, say that the people will be brought to justice. Well, here's that same president 30 years later at the site of what, in my opinion, was a child sacrifice ritual.
You have given America a very great gift. Every year, we get together and reaffirm your model of how, despite all of our differences, and in case you haven't noticed, we've got a few. But in spite of all of them, we can still find a way to move forward together with the Oklahoma Standard.
The Oklahoma Standard. These people will use buzzwords and smile while talking about tragedies that slaughtered children. And mind you, the Oklahoma City bombing, I don't want to overshadow. The Oklahoma City bombing took place 2 years to the day after Waco. And so here we had another essentially government psyop child sacrifice ritual. Waco was a little more in the public eye, and people know more about the bullshit because there've been more Hollywood produced, they had the whole Netflix series and stuff. Anyway, I do want to point out real quick, Cool Frog jumped in earlier and gave me the peace sign. Cheers and welcome to Cool Frog if you see this later. I noticed he jumped back out. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, feds and degenerates, cuckolds of all ages, welcome to Mild's Culture Plate. I am your host, Mild Kevin Miles, and it is Saturday, April 19th, 2025, the 30th anniversary of the Oklahoma City bombing and 32nd anniversary of the siege of the Branch Davidian compound in Waco. And Still Not Banned here is also in the chat over on Rumble saying, how you doing? Cheers and welcome to Still Not Banned here. Pleasure to see you as always. Good having you by. Cheers, cheers, cheers. And to answer your question, I'm doing mostly good. I started off the weekend with a lot of family obligations, and those family members just kind of didn't return my phone calls, so I've been able to get a couple extra naps in, get some chores done around the house, run some errands, and get a bunch of other stuff done that I've been needing to get done for a long time. So I'm doing actually great. Again, I'm a little somber thinking about Waco and the Oklahoma City bombing and the fact that this reptile here on the screen, allegedly reptile. Please don't sue me, Clinton family, and please don't murder me. But yeah, this individual on the screen quickly tried to pass anti-terror legislation. Essentially, there was a version of the Patriot Act that was drafted in response to the Oklahoma City bombing. They tried to push through a lot of this stuff and aim it at the American people. And when that didn't work, of course, then we had 9/11 and the whole global war on terror and the Muslim panic and And, they were able to then draft that legislation and start making us take our shoes off at the airport and go through face scanners and body scanners in order to fly. So, they get what they want. They just kick the ball down the road a little bit. Kind of like we're dealing with the Real ID Act right now. Another 20-year-old law that they just kept kicking the can down the road. And now we're facing more, loss of our freedoms in the name of keeping us safe. Well, I'm sure you've heard several other podcasters, give the old quote, Ben Franklin, those who sacrifice liberty for temporary security deserve neither, and will probably get neither, however the quote goes. Or we'll lose both or something. Yeah, something like that. Anyway, so yeah, thank you. Thank you for the question. Still not banned here. So yeah, I did want to kind of touch on that, mostly because I think the Rumble exclusive stream this week, the Rumble Premium exclusive stream this week, I think we will be digging into one of the major documentaries on the inconsistencies in the government narrative in the Oklahoma City bombing. So all the stuff that I couldn't remember during that opening clip from the Corbett report, we'll be digging into a lot of that, and we'll be getting seeing some of the interviews from those people whose names I couldn't remember. But the two major ones in that, to me, are the stories of Terrence Yakey and Kenneth Trentadue. And if you don't know who those two men are, we will be covering them extensively Monday night. We will, I'll kind of pause the documentary to really, talk about how offended I am at the way the government handled those two men's deaths. And, when you talk about justice, the fact that denying those two families justice in order to cover up whatever the hell else was going on with the Oklahoma City bombing investigation is the nationwide tragedy that I'm talking about. Like I said, Waco all day, Ruby Ridge, 9/11, JFK, sure. But most people have pigeonholed the memories of the things they saw in the coverage of the Oklahoma City bombing and allowed this government narrative to come forward. And it kind of started the ball rolling on implanting this thing in our minds of how prevalent terrorism is in the world. And, we still will kind of excuse these narratives of right-wing extremism. And, anyway, so we will be covering that on the Monday Rumble Premium exclusive stream. And I'll go ahead and bring that that globalist off the screen here. All right, let's get into the news. We've got Bobby Kennedy praising the governor of Indiana. This is from Fox News. Rachel Wolf. Kennedy applauds visionary Indiana governor's Maha executive orders. Secretary Kennedy praises the governor's courageous and visionary leadership in reforming SNAP and addressing root causes of chronic diseases. Mike Braun, Republican of Indiana, became the latest leader to enact health-related policies. On Tuesday, Braun signed a package of 9 executive orders to make Indiana healthy again. HHS Director or Secretary Bobby Kennedy Jr. and Center for Medicaid Services Administrator Dr. Oz joined Braun at an event on Tuesday where all three spoke about the importance of healthy eating. Still not banned here. I hope all the victims of the Texas and Tuskegee get all the peace and healing they need. Texas and Tuskegee. Is there another? Not, tell me what you're talking about. I may have missed. Oh, Waco. Okay, so Waco and Okay, and then the Tuskegee Airmen, I'm assuming you're talking about? Yeah, I mean, there have been so many government psyops where we've been lied to. There's a great book out there. What's it called? There's a great book out there. Oh shit, I can't show the. Okay, that covers up. No, it doesn't. Shit. I'm trying to show the Amazon without, and I can't do it. Open image in new tab. Here we go. This book, Alexander Cockburn, Whiteout. It talks a lot about all of these narratives, including the Tuskegee Airmen, including Waco, Oklahoma. Yeah, it talks a lot about all the times our government has lied to us. Vietnam with the, Gulf of Tonkin. But then it really gets into how the CIA has been working behind the scenes to undermine honesty to the American people. Anyway, oh shit. Okay, there we go. All right, now let's get back to Bobby Kennedy here. This isn't the usual top-down, one-size-fits-all public health agenda. We're focused on root causes, giving Hoosiers the transparent information to make decisions affecting their health, making it easier to access fresh local food from Indiana's incredible farms, which Indiana does have some pretty neat farms out there. And taking on the problems and government programs that are contributing to making our communities less healthy, Braun said in a statement about the orders. In his orders, Braun made changes to the SNAP program, called for a study on the impact of artificial food dyes, and outlined a comprehensive chronic disease plan focused on the diets of Indiana residents. One of the major changes to SNAP would require able-bodied beneficiaries who are not currently working to seek employment. Yay! Additionally, candy and soft drinks will no longer be eligible for purchase with SNAP benefits in Indiana. Yay! During Tuesday's event, Braun said that more SNAP dollars were going to sweets than fruits and vegetables. Wow. Kennedy praised Braun's courageous and visionary leadership. I just realized I got my reverb on. Sorry if it's been echoey. In a statement, and urged governors throughout the country to sign similar executive orders to make their own states healthier. Dr. Oz also commended the Indiana governor's work by saying, by prioritizing prevention, proper nutrition, and healthy lifestyle choices, we can set our younger generations up for a lifetime of success. Governors across the country have implemented changes to SNAP in their states with the goal of making Americans healthier. Last month, Kennedy appeared with Governor Patrick Morrisey of West Virginia, who said he'd be put on a vigorous exercise regimen and a carnivore diet. West Virginia is the most obese state, followed by Mississippi and Arkansas. Okay, there we go. So there you go. Make America, including Indiana, healthy again. All right, folks, this next news story was a late addition to the show because I just noticed this news story kind of starting to trend on X. And, I kind of, I kind of try not to really rely on libs of TikTok as a main news source. But, this has already grown to viral status on the internet, so I'm going to go ahead and cover it. But understand that this is still kind of developing, and this is more of a little pissing match between far crazy leftists and far crazy right wingers. But because it is Holy Weekend, right? We just had Good Friday. Tomorrow's Easter Sunday. I felt it was important to cover this story, so let's do this. From the New York Post. Drag queen group mocks Jesus and Christianity in its Easter show marketed to kids. Nothing like getting the drag queens involved in Easter for the children. Yeah, still not banned here. I'm having a great weekend, a great Holy Weekend, and I'm considering watching Passion of the Christ after the show tonight. Cheers. And although my girlfriend's trying to get me to switch that to the 10 Commandments because it's a little less depressing, but I think it's important to understand the reason for the season, so to speak. San Francisco drag queen group Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. Yes, the same ones who were mocking Jesus back at Christmas. Self-professed order of queer and trans nuns is sparking controversy in the days leading up to their annual transgender Easter event. This year's event, which is being called No Easter Without the T, is meant to... By the way, it's where the stream title came from. This year's event, so it's meant to honor transgenderism and features a children's Easter egg hunt and costume contest, encouraging attendees to come dressed in drag as Hunky Jesus and Foxy Mary. The event's invitation poster includes a depiction of tattooed Jesus surrounded by men in drag. Pictures posted from the event in previous years include men dressed as Jesus in high heels and dresses and minimal clothing and holding signs that say, "Can I get a gay men?" and "Hose of Jesus." According to the group's website, past winners of the contest include Barbie's Ken Jesus, Historically Accurate Jesus, Transgender Maria de Guadalupe, Pro-Choice Mary, and Black Woman as God. Cheers and welcome to Demon's Wrath. Good seeing you in the chat. Good having you by. Great having you by. Happy Easter to you, sir. Libs of TikTok slam the event, especially calling the attention to the drag group for encouraging children to attend, while simultaneously admitting that parents are advised that some may find the latter portion of the show inappropriate for young children. And of course, here's the image. You got someone with a pink beard and clown makeup, more clown makeup, and yeah, no. Just disgusting. They literally say their show's inappropriate for children while still encouraging children to attend, said Libs of TikTok. Disgusting, commented Catholic Vote Senior Advisor Steve Cortez, saying, "The ruling class abides by bigotry as long as it's targeted against faithful Christians generally and Catholics specifically." More clown makeup. Logan Church, political director of Catholic Vote, told Fox News that the group is disgusted, though sadly not surprised. The so-called Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence have made it their mission to mock Christianity with open hostility, and this blasphemous Easter event is just the latest example, he said. "It's not bold, it's not brave, it's certainly not art, it's bigotry dressed in costume, and Americans are right to be outraged," he went on. "Let's be clear, sacrilege is not a religion and is not protected under the banner of religious freedom. While we live in a country that defends free speech, that does not mean Christians are required to sit silently while our faith is ridiculed. We have every right and every reason to push back." Now, can you imagine if we did this for Muhammad? If we had gays dressed as women for Muhammad? Can you imagine the media outrage? So now let's move on to Harvard from Boston.com. Morgue manager in alleged body parts scheme at Harvard to plead guilty. Cedric Lodge faces a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison, a fine of $250,000, and up to 3 years supervised release per his plea agreement. A former Harvard Medical School morgue manager arrested in 2023 for allegedly stealing and selling human body parts is now expected to plead guilty, federal records show. Cedric Lodge of New Hampshire has agreed to plead guilty to a charge of interstate transport of stolen goods, according to a copy of the agreement filed in Pennsylvania. He's scheduled to stand trial next month. Prosecutors allege he took part in a grisly multi-year scheme centered on cadavers donated to Harvard for educational and research purposes. They've accused Lodge of stealing dissected body parts, including heads, brains, skin, and bones, and bringing the remains home to New Hampshire, where he and his wife Denise would mail them to buyers. The couple netted tens of thousands of dollars over several years, according to prosecutors who cited PayPal payments with memos such as head number 7 and brains. Denise pleaded guilty last year to a charge of interstate transport of stolen goods. Her husband was doing this and she just kind of went along with it. Denise Lodge's attorney, Hope Lefebvre, told WBUR in 2024, what happened here is wrong, Lefebvre acknowledged, although she asserted no one lost money and the matter was more of a moral and ethical dilemma than a criminal case. Do you fucking hear this? Now, granted, lawyers kind of are required to be scummy from time to time, but that's a hell of a quote. Nobody lost money and the matter was more ethical than criminal? I'm sorry, if I die and a bunch of my body parts start getting mailed out to people, it's the monetary value there is important. No one lost money. No, they lost their fucking kidneys, which is worth more than just the money. And you got money for it, so it's obviously worth money. So yeah, people did lose money. Fucking goddamn. We're not allowed to sell our body parts. That's why no one lost money. If I could sell my kidneys when I die, fuck, I'll take the money. Give it to my kids. I mean, I wouldn't take the money, but some people might. The alleged thefts had resounding implications. Harvard launched an independent review of its anatomical gift program. Dozens of people backed out of donating their bodies to Harvard Medical School, and relatives of past donors sued the school and Cedric Lodge. A lower court judge dismissed the family's claims against Harvard, but the state Supreme Judicial Court is now determining whether to reverse that decision. Yes. No, let them fucking sue. They don't know where their family members' guts are. There's heads and brains missing. Come on. In the meantime, Lodge faces a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison, a fine of $250,000, and up to 3 years of supervised release. Lodge's customers allegedly included Katrina McLean, a Salem resident accused of storing and selling remains out of her Peabody shop, Cat's Creepy Creations. McLean filed a motion last month to dismiss the charges against her, with her lawyer describing in her court documents as a happily married mother of two who has volunteered at her local elementary school. Oh my God, kids. Folks, keep your kids out of public school. Jesus Christ. Oh, Lord. McLean has a somewhat unusual interest. She's part of Legal Nationwide Oddities community that collects body parts, her lawyer wrote. While not exactly mainstream, that oddities market is extensive and not uncommon, particularly in McLean's hometown of Salem, Massachusetts, a community with well-known penchant for the unusual. One of Lodge's other buyers, Pennsylvania resident Josh Taylor, is also expected to plead guilty to interstate of transport of stolen goods, court records show, and another man charged in connection with the scheme, Pennsylvania's Jeremy Pauly, pleaded guilty to federal charges in 2023. Thank you, Abby Patkin of Boston.com. Still not banned here. All of the Ivy League skeletons are coming out. Good. And you know people who reported or found out risked their lives probably. Yeah. Fuck. God. But this is what happens: is we lose loved ones, or something happens to our loved ones. They get taken to morgues, and we want to just automatically believe that the people in the death industry, whether it be investigators or forensic investigators or medical examiners or people in the funeral community, we want to believe that they are respecting the remains. They're showing some sort of respect for the human life that has been lost. And all too often we find out that's not the case. And there've been a couple of high profile shootings and high profile political deaths this past couple of weeks. I'm not really going to cover them on my show today, but understand that there are a lot of families out there grieving. And we get into these political debates and whatever, but there's still families out there that have to bury loved ones. Whether it be in the shooting in Florida State, prayers go out to those families. Or the Austin Metcalf family and the injustices that family's facing, regardless of what my opinion of the father is. He doesn't deserve to be swatted, doesn't deserve to be kicked out of press conferences involving the accused. And I would get more into that whole narrative, but it's been covered by every live streamer from top to bottom on the conservative slant on the internet. So you guys can pretty much guess how I feel about it. But we see these news stories and we forget that the other than these kind of politically charged tragedies, there are tragedies that affect millions of families every single day. And, we've had let's see here. There was a plane crash. A small plane crashed in Nebraska, Fremont, Nebraska. Sergeant Bree Frank with DCSO told First Alert 6 at the scene. Several agencies responded to the incident using airboats and an Omaha police helicopter to survey the scene. Waterloo and Valley Fire Departments, along with Nebraska State Patrol, assisted in the response, and 3 bodies have been recovered from the water, but their identities will not be released until the families are notified, DCSO said in a social media post. So that was today in Nebraska. So again, prayers go out to all families. I mean, this is just kind of a depressing show, folks. Sorry, but, we started off talking about the Oklahoma City bombing. Now we're doing plane crashes and political tragedies, and it sucks. It sucks. So let's get to the economic news. We got a couple of economic news stories, and we'll kind of use that to transition into talking about Trump. Let's talk about the Federal Reserve. Jerome Powell says Federal Reserve can wait on any interest rate moves. This is from ABC News' AP. So ABC News via the AP Economics Department, Christopher Rugaber. Federal Reserve can stay patient and wait to see how tariffs and other economic policies of Trump administration play out before making any changes to interest rates, said Chairman Jerome Powell. For the time being, we are positioned to wait for greater clarity on the impact of policy changes in areas such as immigration, taxation, regulation, and tariffs, Powell said. The sharp volatility in financial markets since President Trump announced sweeping tariffs on April 2nd, only to put most of them on hold a week later, has led to speculation about whether the Fed would soon cut key interest rates or take other steps to calm investors. Yet the Fed is unlikely to intervene unless there's breakdown in the market or Treasury securities or other malfunctions, economists say. In written remarks delivered to the Economic Club of Chicago, Powell reiterated that the Trump administration tariffs are, quote, significantly larger than anticipated. The same is likely to be true of the economic effects, which will include higher inflation and slower growth. Bullshit. Bullshit. Powell said the inflation will likely be temporary, but could also be more persistent. You fucking liar. Echoing a concern expressed by the majority of the Fed's 19-member interest rate setting committee in the minutes of their meeting last month. I don't think we need to cover the rest of this. This is, again, more scaremongering of Trump. Trump has come out publicly several times and said he wants the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates, cut prices Americans need to their loans. Oh my God. What is this? Okay, hang on. I gotta go to the archive for the next news story because fucking Reuters is asking me to paywall. It's the first time I've seen a paywall thing from Reuters. Let me see if I can find it at archive here. Oh no. What happened to the ability to snapshot it? No, that's not what I want. What the fuck's going on here? What the hell? I can't get archive to work. Okay. Well, I'll just kind of bring it up here because we could talk about it without talking about it. Toyota weighs adding U.S. production of the new RAV4 in response to tariffs, sources say. So I don't know who the sources are, but allegedly Toyota's considering bringing RAV4 production to the U.S. So there you go. Trump's tariffs already causing lower prices for Americans and job growth. This is exactly what we wanted. So yeah, fuck you, Reuters, for putting that behind the paywall. Let's go to the Military Times for another Trump W here. The United States to reduce the military footprint in Syria to fewer than 1,000 troops. Recognizing the success the United States has had against ISIS, including its 2019 territorial defeat under Trump, today the Secretary of Defense directed the consolidation of U.S. forces in Syria under a combined joint task force, Operation Inherent Resolve, to select locations in Syria, Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell said in a statement. This consolidation reflects significant steps we've made toward degrading ISIS appeal and operational capacity regionally and globally. The Pentagon did not specify in the release how many troops will be withdrawn, but the New York Times reported Thursday that the number is 600. The release also did not provide a specific timeline for withdrawal beyond stating it would bring the U.S. footprint in Syria down to less than 1,000 forces in the coming months. As the consolidation takes place, consistent with Trump's commitment to peace through strength, Central Command will remain poised to continue strikes against the remnants of ISIS in Syria. Okay, maybe that's not a W. Parnell said, we will work closely with capable and willing coalition partners to maintain pressure on ISIS and respond to any other terrorist threats that arise. We got Shut Up I Can Cook popping in over there on YouTube. Cheers and welcome. Good seeing you. Good seeing you. Oh man, I was hoping we had And we got Sanglant popping in. Cheers and welcome. Cheers and welcome. Good seeing you. Good seeing you. U.S. troops critical, not only in operations against the Islamic State, but as a buffer for Kurdish forces against Turkey, which considers them to be aligned with terror groups. Donald Trump tried to withdraw all forces from Syria during his first term, but he met opposition from the Pentagon because it was seen as abandoning allies and led to the resignation of Defense Secretary Mattis. A departure of 600 troops would return force levels to where they had been for years after the U.S. and his allies waged a multi-year campaign to defeat IS. The U.S. had maintained 900 troops in Syria to ensure ISIS militants did not regain a foothold, but also as a hedge to prevent Iranian-backed militants from trafficking weapons. In December 2024, President Assad fled the country. In the months since, Syrians displaced by more than a decade of war have returned home, but the country remains unstable. Israel has targeted weapons installations, and there are some indications that ISIS group is trying to reconstitute itself, and Iranian-backed militias in Syria remain a threat to U.S. interests. Hey, still not banned here, giving a happy Easter over to Cookie and Sanglant. Yeah, happy Easter to both of y'all. And again, if you weren't here earlier, I want to go ahead and provide the announcement again. Monday night, I'll be doing a Rumble exclusive special where we will be watching a comprehensive documentary on the Oklahoma City bombing, as today is the 30th anniversary of the Oklahoma City bombing. And since we're talking about the government telling us the truth, this week we had the White House. The White House put out this website. Boom! lableak.gov. Or no, it's covid.gov or something. Yeah, I think it was covid.gov. And in here, you got Trump menacingly standing in front of the words lab leak, the true origins of COVID-19. Proximal origin of SARS-CoV-2 publication, which was used repeatedly by health officials and the media to discredit the lab leak theory, was prompted by Fauci to push the preferred narrative that COVID-19 originated naturally. 1. The virus possesses a biological characteristic not found in nature. 2. Data shows that COVID-19 cases stem from a single introduction into humans. This runs contrary to previous pandemic where there were multiple spillover events. 3. And shout out to Jon Stewart on this one. Wuhan is home to China's foremost SARS research lab, which has a history of conducting gain-of-function research, gene altering and organism supercharging, at inadequate biosafety levels. Number 4, Wuhan Institute of Virology, WIV, researchers were sick with COVID-like symptoms in the fall of 2019, months before COVID was discovered at the wet market. By number 5, by nearly all measures of science, if there was evidence of a natural origin, it would have already surfaced, but has not. Cookie asks if she should sear or bake her salmon. You should throw it in the trash and make some ham. I'm just kidding. You're on the East Coast. Yeah, your salmon should be pretty good. I'm in the middle of the country. Salmon is gross here. And so you have a House Oversight Report download, and that's also at the bottom of the page here. And so, yeah, you got all this stuff. You got basically repeating a lot of what was set up there. EcoHealth Alliance, under the leadership of Peter Daszak, used taxpayer dollars to fund dangerous gain-of-function research in Wuhan after the Select Subcommittee released evidence of EcoHealth violating terms of NIH grant. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services commenced official debarment proceedings and suspended all funding to EcoHealth. New evidence also shows that the DOJ has opened an investigation into EcoHealth's pandemic-era activities. NIH procedures for funding and overseeing potentially dangerous research are deficient, unreliable, and pose a serious threat to public health and national security. Further, NIH fostered an environment that promoted evading federal record-keeping laws as seen throughout the actions of Dr. David Morinz and FOIA Lady Marge Moore. And then, of course, Dr. Fauci was pardoned. HHS has been obstructing. EcoHealth has been obstructing. Dr. David Morinz deliberately lied and obstructed the subcommittee's investigation. New York's executive chamber, led presently by Governor Kathy Hochul, has redacted documents, offered numerous illegitimate privilege claims, and withheld thousands of documents without an apparent legal basis to obstruct the select subcommittee's investigation into former Governor Cuomo's pandemic-era failures. And then here you have a Forbes link, a YouTube link to Forbes' YouTube account where they talk about the lab leak theory and how our Congress has, specifically the Homeland Security Committee, has investigated this stuff. Cookie says SCOTUS thinks they're above Congress and the president. We're getting into that. We'll get to that news story. Still Not Banned here says the trash. Oh yeah, because I said she should throw her salmon away. Broil salmon. Yes, broiling salmon is pretty good. Seared is good too. WHO's response was an abject failure. 6 feet apart recommendation was arbitrary and not based on science. Dr. Fauci testified that the guidance just sort of appeared. No conclusive evidence that masks effectively protected Americans from COVID. And, again, hopefully YouTube understands this as a source here, a valid source, because, yeah. Sangla says, freezer section seafood that's processed and frozen on the boat isn't too bad. Thawing and filleting a nice 16-ounce block of flounder is a worthwhile skill as well. Yeah. Yeah, I need to get some fish and try to hone my filleting skills. And then lockdowns caused immeasurable harm to not only the economy, but mental and physical health of Americans, with a particularly negative effect on young citizens. Rather than prioritizing the protection of the most vulnerable populations, federal and state government policies forced millions of Americans to forego crucial elements of a healthy and financially sound life. And then particularly New York. Cuomo's March 25th order, which forced nursing homes to accept COVID-positive patients, was medical malpractice. Evidence shows that Cuomo and his administration worked to cover up the tragic aftermath of their policy and decisions in an apparent effort to shield themselves from accountability. And they talk about the nursing home disaster. And then public health officials often mislead the American people through conflict messaging, knee-jerk reactions, and a lack of transparency. Most egregiously, the federal government demonized alternative treatments and disfavored narratives such as the lab leak theory in a shameful effort to coerce and control the American people's health decisions. When those efforts failed, the Biden administration resorted to outright censorship, coercing and colluding with the world's largest social media companies to censor dissent. There you have it. The White House telling the truth about COVID-19. Finally. So, let's get into Trump and these court decisions. So, we have Judge Boasberg, who previously ordered hang on. Sorry, this is a wrong news story. My bad. Not Boasberg. Judge Trevor McFadden, who handed the Associated Press a win against Donald Trump and said that the White House had to include. Cookie says she lives among Asians who do not speak English. She goes to seafood places and everything is Chinese and they have weird fish. I mean, we just were talking about China spreading diseases. You might be careful with places like that. Not to be racist or anything, but yeah. Anyway, so yeah, this judge, Trevor McFadden, told the White House that they had to start including the AP in their press conferences. And now the AP is crying. Let's look at this. The judge will not take further steps to enforce his order in AP case against Trump administration. And David Bowder of AP's crying here that a federal judge who ordered the Trump administration to stop blocking the AP from presidential events refused Friday to take immediately steps to get the White House to comply. An incremental development in a 2-month dispute between the Global News Agency and administration officials over access. The case, which has significant free speech implications under the U.S. Constitution and First Amendment, centers on the government blocking AP's access to cover events because the outlet won't say Gulf of America in its reports. And yes, I changed that to proper because they're babies and they're bullshit. District Judge Trevor McFadden, who handed AP a victory last week in its efforts to end the ban, said it's too soon to say that Trump is violating his order. We are not at the point where we can make much of a determination one way or another, said McFadden. I don't intend to micromanage the White House. AP lawyer Charles Tobin wouldn't comment. White House, no immediate comment. So apparently there's a new press policy at the White House where, here we go, since McFadden's ruling took effect, an AP photographer was allowed into the Oval Office on Thursday, and a reporter has yet to be allowed back in, but the White House said a reporter will be part of the coverage rotation on Saturday, today, when reporters can follow Trump around in a van where he plans to play golf. So there you go. Shout out. Shout out to the AP for being a now becoming the president's sports reporters because you refuse to say Gulf of America. Okay. What did I do? Okay, so here we go. Let's swap these three. Okay, because yeah, we're gonna hammer these Trump court cases over and over again here real quick. Given their own office in the public toilet. Oh, fun times. Oh man, we had 10 viewers on Rumble there for just a second a little bit ago, and I was hoping we'd build that back up so I could do an ad read, but we're not quite there yet. Okay, so let's do this. Appeals court judge halts Boasberg's contempt proceedings against Trump in deportation flights case. And yes, I'm going to go ahead and say that while this is a win for the Trump administration, it doesn't fucking matter because we're going to get into how the Supreme Court said, yeah, well, fuck all that. We're going to agree with Boasberg. So hang on real quick. A federal appeals court on Friday temporarily blocked District Court Judge James Boasberg from moving forward with contempt proceedings against Trump administration officials over deportation flights to El Salvador. In a 2-1 ruling, a panel of judges on the U.S. Court of Appeals for D.C. Circuit administratively stayed Boasberg's April 16th order pending further order of the court. The purpose of this administrative stay is to give the court sufficient opportunity to consider the emergency motion for a stay pending appeal or a writ of mandamus and should not be construed in any way as a ruling on the merits of that motion, read the appeals court ruling. But then you had the Supreme Court blocking new deportation of Venezuelans. So, Trump can deport. Trump is now allowed, I guess, to deport to El Salvador, but not Venezuela, thanks to the Supreme Court saying Venezuelans in Texas cannot be deported under the 18th Century Alien Enemies Act. Justices Thomas and Alito dissented, ruling early Saturday morning, blocking at least for now the deportations of any Venezuelans held in northern Texas in an 18th century wartime law. The justices instructed the Trump administration not to remove Venezuelans held in Blue Bonnet Detention Center until further order of the court. Thomas and Alito dissented, and here you go, walking through Venezuelan migrants repatriated from the U.S. Upon arrival in Simon Bolivar International Airport in Venezuela on April 4th. Court's ruling comes after an emergency appeal from the ACLU, arguing that federal immigration authorities appear to be working to resume the removal of migrants under the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. SCOTUS has previously said that the Trump administration could conduct deportations under the Alien Enemies Act as long as suspected illegal immigrants are given due process. In its request for an injunction, the ACLU reportedly argued that the government's notice does not comply with the Supreme Court's order, according to NPR. The organization also reportedly said that at the minimum notice that needed to be translated so those being notified could understand. So they were saying, here's your notice, it's in English, good luck reading it. That's great. I fucking love it. Cookie said, Roberts and Barrett are loons, no more weak men or women on SCOTUS. Yeah, the 5 women like to vote together. It's sad. Cookie's in love with Stephen Miller. 2 federal judges earlier declined to step in, and the Fifth Circuit of Court of Appeals has not made any decision. Alien Enemy Act has only been invoked 3 previous times in U.S. history, most recent being the internment camps of Japanese Americans. All right. Boom. And while we're talking about judges smacking around Donald Trump and the Trump administration, yikes on SCOTUS, who could have seen this coming? Anyone? Well, like I said, I've been ranting about the 5 women on the Supreme Court on this show for over a year now. Pardon my sinuses for a second. Try to hide it behind this banner here. Anyway, we got a couple news stories left to go. And then I want to talk about a narrative. Oh man, I took out my office trash and I left the trash can in the other room. Judge blocks Trump administration from passport changes affecting transgender Americans. Michael Casey of the AP. Federal judge on Friday partially blocked the Trump administration from enacting a policy that bans the use of the X marker used by non-binaries, as well as the changing of gender markers. U.S. District Judge Julia Kobik. Let's search for this Julia Kobik. Let's see what this lovely lady looks like. Oh yeah. Totally. Appointed by Joe Biden, sided with the ACLU's motion. Another ACLU, which stays the action while the lawsuit plays out, requires the State Department to allow 6 transgender and non-binary people who are plaintiffs to obtain passports with sex designations consistent with their gender identity. The executive order and passport policy on their face classify passport applicants on the basis of sex and thus must be reviewed under immediate judicial scrutiny, Kobik wrote. That standard requires the government to demonstrate that its actions are substantially related to an important governmental interest. The government has failed to meet this standard. Kobik also said plaintiffs have shown they would succeed in demonstrating the new passport policy and the executive order, quote, are based on irrational prejudice toward transgender Americans and therefore offend our nation's constitutional commitment of equal protection for all Americans. Oh, dear Lord. In addition, plaintiffs have shown they're likely to succeed on their claim that the passport policy is arbitrary and capricious and that it was not adopted in compliance with the procedures required by the Paperwork Reduction Act and Administrative Procedure Act. So then why do we even need gender on any of our ID? Why do we need sex on any of our ID? That's essentially what you're arguing. That sex on any ID is not necessary. Well, I think it's necessary. I think it provides identifying markers. And just because you're wearing a dress doesn't mean someone's not going to see a 6-foot tall figure lurking in the shadows and need to report that. And they wouldn't be able to match that to your passport or your driver's license. Yeah, still not being here. Or the trans rights outweigh women's rights. Cookie says, put Thomas in charge of SCOTUS and give us 2 more like him. Jesus. ACLU, which sued the Trump administration, said the new policy would effectively mean transgender, non-binary, and intersex Americans could not get an accurate passport. Accurate by whose standards? That's the problem. We don't play fucking fairy tale fucking imagination land with you people anymore. This decision is a critical victory against I'm sorry, let's do this. This decision is a critical victory against discrimination and for equal justice under the law, said Lee Nolan Soul, senior staff attorney for ACLU's LGBTQ HIV project. But it's a historic win in the fight against this administration's efforts to drive transgender people out of public life. The state's department policy is a baseless barrier for transgender and intersex Americans and denies them the dignity we all deserve. Nowlin Soul said it plans to file a motion requesting the ruling be applied to all trans and non-binary Americans. In its lawsuit, the ACLU described how one woman had her passport returned with a male designation. The fucking horror. The fucking horror. Before he applied for his new passport, Ash Lazarus Orr was accused in early January by the TSA of using fake documents when traveling from West Virginia to New York, since she had a male designation on her driver's license, but a female one on the passport. That prompted them to request the updated passport with a sex designation of male before Trump took office. In response to the lawsuit, the Trump administration argued the passport policy change, quote, does not violate the equal protection guarantees of the Constitution. They also contend that the president has broad discretion in setting passport policy and the plaintiffs would not be harmed by the policy since they're still free to travel. Exactly. Can you get on the plane? Can you get on the plane? Then your rights aren't being violated. Yes, Oppression Olympics, like Still Not Banned here says. All right, now one more Trump L we had to cover. Trump has appointed a new Homeland Security Advisory Council. And it's going to include Fox News host Mark Levin. Mark Levin is one of these pro-war, pro-Israel media figures. Some of the things he says is cool and conservative. Some of it's very fucking neocon. Trump posted on social media platform X that Mark Levin, host of The Mark Levin Show and Fox News' Life, Liberty, and Levin program, along with South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster, Florida State Senators Joe Gruters, and private investigator Bo Dietl, will serve on the council, which advises Kristi Noem. I'm proud to announce the formation of my revamped Homeland Security Advisory Council, which is comprised of top experts in the field, highly respected by their peers, Trump wrote. It's a big honor to serve on HSAC, and I know the new members, Henry McMaster, Mark Levin, Bo Dietl, and Joe Gruters, will do an incredible job. The president said the council will work on developing new policies and strategies to help secure the border, deport illegal criminal thugs, stop the flow of fentanyl and other illegal drugs that are killing our citizens, and make America safe again. Levin thanked Trump, calling it an honor. Gruters posted that he's honored. Dietl called it a true privilege. All right, we're going to call that. So, folks, I just wanted to touch for a minute on some of the Trump derangement syndrome stuff we hear. Cookie says, I am like Ann Coulter. My terms for president is in birthright citizenship scam and drastically minimize immigration. Interesting you bring up the birthright citizenship stuff, because I've had some conversations with some of my lefty friends and family as of late. And of course, they're on the whole, Trump is a Nazi, Trump is a dictator, Trump is this, Trump is that, Trump's going to implement Project 2025. Which that led me to, I'd never fully read Project 2025, and I asked Grok to give me a rundown of some of the crazier policies of Project 2025. And basically, the only thing I didn't necessarily agree with is the banning porn and banning birth control. Like most of the rest of it, And I will say that there was allegedly there's raising the Social Security age, there's banning abortion, and things that the president said he was not going to do. Things that the president have implicitly said, I'm not going to do these things. So everything crazy is either stuff that's good, stuff that the president has said he's not going to do, and of course, social issues that are so crazy that no one would expect the president to do them, even with some of the crazier stuff he has done. But that's not necessarily what I'm talking about right now. I asked for essentially, why do you think, other than Project 2025, why do you folks think he's a dictator? And essentially what I was given is that conservatives are talking about giving Trump a third term. And I'm like, literally the only person I have heard say this is Steve Bannon. I did hear Trump joke about it once, but Obama joked about it once, right? Didn't Obama joke about getting a third term or continuing to serve? And then there's the whole conspiracy theory that he was working behind the scenes for the Biden administration. So I asked Grok. Let's bring this up. Again, I hate bringing you guys to Grok, but I did want to point this out. Is there anyone in the seriously influential right wing other than Bannon who are seriously floating the Trump third term talking point? Cookie loves Steve Bannon. I love Steve Bannon too, but let's face it. If you want to be a legitimate constitutional right wing, constitutional conservative, you have to respect the Constitution, or you have to admit that right now the country's still too divided for us to get the 2/3 of the country together to change the Constitution. So I would like to hear a rational legal theory behind this. Just like I would like to hear a rational legal theory behind some of the other stuff. I spoke out on this program when Trump said he was going to undo the Biden pardons. But then when I heard the legal theory behind the auto pen and the fact that we could not prove that Biden even knew about the documents that were being signed or intended to sign those pardons, I'm like, you got an interesting legal theory. I want to see how it plays out because, yeah, I thought it was a constitutional crisis, but it turned out to be more of a, were you following due process kind of thing. And so if you could point out an argument like that with the 22nd Amendment here and the presidential term limits, I'm willing to hear it. But so far, I'm saying Bannon, yeah, Cookie, Bannon's playing 3D chess like Trump. Yeah. When Bannon and Trump joke about this, it's to rile up and get left-wingers to act crazy. And they're acting crazy. Anyway, so I asked it, and it said, yeah, Tucker Carlson has not endorsed it. Charlie Kirk has not been documented advocating for a Trump third term. Sean Hannity, staying within conventional electoral boundaries, not reported as seriously floating a third term idea. Bongino, no record of him pushing a third term narrative. Marjorie Taylor Greene and other congressional figures have expressed a strong loyalty to Trump, but public statements do not include serious advocacy for a third term. Their focus remains on current political moves or MAGA policies. And it asked me for X accounts, and I told it basically to filter out clickbaity accounts and low follower accounts, and it basically did. It found none. It found none. Some anonymous account claimed that Vance would back a Trump third term. I should have asked what account that was, but Andy Ogles of Tennessee introduced a resolution to amend the Constitution, but again, that amendment's not going to happen without 2/3 of the country. So that's obviously a troll. Lauren Boebert urged followers to secure Trump's third term, though the context was ambiguous, and that was in November 2024, so that was probably an election post. Green posted in November, congratulating Trump on winning his third term, echoing the claim that Trump won in 2020. So, conclusion, beyond Bannon, the only notable figures seriously floating the Trump third term are the three representatives whose comments are more rhetorical than substantive. No other major right-wing influencers, whether media personalities, commentators, or party leaders, are actively or seriously promoting this narrative. So we can close the door on the crazy left-wing, blue anon conspiracies about Donald Trump not leaving office at the end of his term. Go fuck yourself. Okay, now we're going to get to Shut Up I Can Cook's favorite segment. And since we've already dealt with the Transformers twice already in the show, why don't we finish off with a good Love Don't Judge on Transformers? I don't have my Transformer sound clip here. I don't have my soundboard plugged in today. But Transformers. Anyway, so we're gonna deal with some Transformers over on the Love Does Admonish segment. Cookie says, read Art of the Deal. None of those weak white men matter. Leave Trump and Bannon alone. They're playing chess. And Still Not Banned here says, enjoy the salmon again, Cookie. All right. So here we go. Love Does Admonish. If you're not a regular viewer of the show, every Saturday we do a segment we call Love Does Admonish, where we watch this YouTube channel called Love Don't Judge that features unique relationships with just something weird about them. And they receive a lot of hate online, and we determine whether or not that hate might have some validity to it in a segment we call Love Does Admonish. So let's go on and get into this. I met my girlfriend on Tinder. Now he's my husband.
This is Chase. He fell in love with Elan.
We're a Tinder love story.
When they first started dating, they were both
So you're lesbians.
women. But Chase had always felt he'd been born in the wrong body.
Before I transitioned, I was never comfortable with who I was.
And 2 years ago, he decided it was finally time to change.
I wouldn't say that I knew he was going to come out as trans, but it definitely did not surprise me with him being trans. It just doesn't matter to me.
But Chase's transition hasn't gone down well with everyone.
Uh-oh.
There's some people that made it kind of
Hey, is that
difficult
Cookie
and
right
upsetting.
there?
We have been together for a long time. No, that's the day you said,
I love you, and then this was the day that you asked me to be your girlfriend. Yeah. We're a Tinder love story.
Tinder. They met on Tinder.
I was
folks.
in a relationship with a cisgendered male before, and was like, you know what? I'm just going to have Tinder set to just females. His picture was like maybe 6 or 7 other people, and I had no idea who it was going to be, but I was down for if it was any one of these people.
I saw her profile and I was like, no. I was like, this girl's like way too beautiful. I'll never see you again. And like swiped right. And then the next morning we matched and I was like, okay, now what?
And we talked literally all day.
Nonstop.
This is an ad for Tinder. This is literally an ad for Tinder.
For 3 days until we decided to like speed up our first date.
I decided to speed up our first date. I was like, I don't want to wait any longer.
Yeah.
Having struck gold on Tinder, the pair have now been together for almost
gold.
3 years
They call
and will
this
shortly
gold.
be celebrating their first wedding anniversary.
Before I transitioned, I was never comfortable with who I was. I tried to discover transitioning about
call me
10
a creep,
years
but
ago
I think
or
she
8
was
years
cute.
ago. I'm wearing makeup.
I find this
I know.
unfortunate.
Like it was always a constant in my mind. I
think
was
she
just too
was cute.
afraid, obviously, because like there's a lot of people who transition who lose family members or lose relationships. It was over 2 years that we had been together. It was actually a week before we got engaged. So I was like, oh my God,
And
like
then
I
the
don't want to
tattoos
get
come.
married. Like I want to be your husband. Like I don't want to be your wife.
I wasn't surprised. The dynamic of our relationship always.
Cookie, you should know the answer to this. White women, a lot of these white women, they like to take the medication, the depression medication, and they have interesting diets. And so yeah, a lot of them are bipolar.
Leaned more to like a male female couple. Him being trans, it just doesn't matter to me. Like,
not only are they bipolar, but they have weird hormone imbalances from the drugs they take and the PMS and the birth control. Again, I'm not shitting on birth control, but you got to understand the side effects of the drugs you're taking. If you're taking a hormonal birth control, it's going to fuck with your brain too, because your hormones go to your brain and they affect your personality and your thoughts and who you are and how you identify. And all these things matter. All of these things matter. There are so many stories on the internet of, oh, I started taking birth control and all of a sudden I stopped wanting to have sex with my husband. He grossed me out. You know, there are receptors in your senses, in your sinuses that you know, you can smell the pheromones of your mate, and that shit gets altered by these drugs. Anyway, sorry.
it really doesn't matter. Like, if I connect with you, I connect with you. And
yeah.
Having made the choice to transition along with Elan's support, the couple's next challenge was to reveal Chase's decision to those around them.
Coming out as gay is one thing, but saying like the person you know is going to completely switch to a different
Yeah, now you're trying to come out as straight, but you're still gay.
gender. There's a lot of unknowns, right? Like you don't know what you're going to look like. We wanted to come out to her parents first, and your parents were just so like, yep, okay, like that, okay, makes sense.
Yeah,
Singlet,
I agree.
There's some people that made it kind of difficult and upsetting. So
when we first, when I met everyone, it was like your grandma's 80th birthday.
Yeah.
And I've never felt more uncomfortable in my entire life.
A lot of my family have been great. There are some people.
And again, to add to what Sanglant's saying, and this is this is really one of the unfortunate things about this, because one of the things that I tend to disagree with people on, and I'm very socially liberal in my political beliefs. And so I have a lot of friends that are lefties. I have a lot of friends that are sort of in the LGBTQIA plus communities. And like, I don't hate on people. I understand it from a different perspective. And what Sanglant's saying here, to me, is one of the most important parts of it, because to me, a lot of this is either rooted in self-esteem issues or depression issues, or for women like this, it could be rooted in the wrong kind of attention and then giving up on trying to get the right kind of attention. And these things start affecting your mental health, and instead of changing your environment or changing your diet or changing your exercise routine, changing the things that you reasonably can change, you want to radically change the way the world views you, in order to try to change your world instead of changing little things about your environment and little things about how you interact with your world. Instead of, taking little small doses of change, you want to make radical change. And oftentimes these folks wind up even unhappier, and the depression just spirals from there. And yeah, they meet unfortunate ends. And I'm empathetic toward that. I would like to see more conversations happen. But again, we're told that if we have any conversation that doesn't include full on, we call it enabling, then we're the ones responsible for the bigotry in the world and the hate and the self-esteem issues.
People who didn't necessarily adapt to it immediately. A couple comments I got were, well, I can't accept that. I prepared myself for exactly those comments. You can't expect a lot of people in your life to be like as amazing, as supportive as she has been, or immediately be like, yes, he, him, you're a dude. Like, it's been really upsetting because you just
okay, but go mow the lawn.
Acceptance.
Go mow the lawn.
Doesn't, but when you don't get it, unfortunately, in my situation, it wasn't a surprise.
Cheers to hiker emoji over on Rumble.
It's like a knitting needle.
In the chat.
And so you have to like vacuum it. I started tea on September 10th of 2019. It's been like really cool, like the changes that have happened. Like obviously physically there's like, I now have facial hair, which is like a huge giveaway, which has been nice. And for a while.
Cookie says YTube is censoring her. Are you trying to say white people are censoring you, Cookie? Is that are you using the black shortened version of white, YT, YTube, WhiteTube?
I was super proud of one belly hair, and now there's more than
How
one.
far
but
we've come.
yeah, how far we've come.
Yeah.
It's like kind of like a humbling experience, like every week when you have
we get to watch them
put
shoot
together a needle so that you can like be who you want to be.
Hey, are those
Even if it
MS-13
hurts,
tattoos
no.
on the
Just
fingers?
remember
I'm
how
just
good
kidding.
of a nurse your wife is.
You're great at it though. The worst time was when we went through a drive-thru once too, and I was trying to order something, and I had the worst voice crack, and she just starts.
Which, by the way, was that not a funny narrative this week? When all the lefties were like, oh, the Trump administration mistakenly deported this guy. He wasn't even an MS-13 member. And then they show the fucking fist with the tattoos that's marijuana smile 13. Yeah, MS-13. Gotcha. Yeah, but he's a good guy. He's just a Maryland man. Yeah.
Howling.
Anyway.
And I'm just like, can you finish the order, please? Like, I'm hoping, anyways, that it'll get more deep than it is now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Due to Chase's experiences of coming out as trans, the couple also decided to start a YouTube channel to document their journey.
Cookie's the Grand Dragon.
Hey, I was gonna say, hey, every guy.
Wait, look at this. She does not look like that. Why did you put on whore makeup?
First one down.
Why are you letting the dog lick you in the face?
The way that we wanted to approach this transition was just different from other people.
White women
it's not
and dogs,
all about
man.
the person who's like physically going through it. Like
exactly.
As a partner, you go through it as well.
There's a plethora of trans men talking about this is 1 month and 2 months and so on. It's personal. It's not family oriented. It's not, well, now that I'm changing, how is my wife adapting to it? And how is our relationship? And how does that work through a marriage?
She's going through depression because she wanted a real man. So instead, she's going to support you doing this because she wants to fantasize that you're a real man. So this is Pinocchio syndrome to me.
We've been extremely lucky. We haven't really gotten a lot of hate online. We've still mostly get positive comments.
Yes, you mostly get
There's the
positive
typical
comments
people who are
because
like,
the
"Oh, you'll never
internet's
be a
full of
real man.
unhinged
Like,
leftists
you're
who wanna-
never gonna be a real father."
Goes on.
Okay. But did you see the sub comment? Here, let me show that
Be
again.
a real man, like
Right there. Look. Look. Oh, that's you. You're an idiot, bro. Get off our page. And then underneath, one of your followers saying he's single, I wonder why. And also, how do you know somebody on Instagram is single? Unless they're, they might have been posting about it, but you had to go stalk this dude because he made a pronoun contradiction. This user had to go stalk this dude. This is pathetic.
you're never gonna be a real father.
Goes on and says, like, for me to grow up and be a real woman, like.
He's an emotional
Pure
vampire.
sucker.
Like, it's a running joke now where it's like, yeah, watch out, babe, I'm just one of those emotional vampires.
It's just Edward over here.
Yeah. It's just like, all right.
But that's so
down.
funny that we have that just to remember forever.
You paused that on a really good moment there.
Our next
have
step
that
is
forever.
trying to get pregnant and have a
Yeah.
family. So we're
Trying
definitely very excited about
trying to get pregnant. So in other words, you're gonna include an innocent man and his offspring in this. All right. I just hope the guy is educated and consents.
that. Just continue to grow like within our relationship.
You don't ever expect to be as supported.
Oh, did she
as
spit in her
you
mouth?
hoped
What
and
was
dreamed
that?
for. But that was my case. I have been like so fortunate that you've just loved me. I would have never imagined in any of my life like this would be my reality as
They're
having
going to be back on this show here in a few months, and this one will be the one that's pregnant. This one here.
a wife who's just like so exceptionally supportive and perfect.
Sanglan 86 says, I hope everyone who bought ring lights into this crap chokes on one. Cheers to Sanglan 86. Oop. Almost showed a picture of my family there. Wasn't trying to do that. All right. Readjust that light. Anyway, that was Love Don't Judge, or the Love Does Admonish segment. I thought that was going to be a couple minutes longer, but it was not. So I'll use this as an opportunity to prepare myself to go cook myself some fried chicken and potatoes. And I will say thank you to everyone for showing up tonight. Please click that like button on your way out. Please follow me on all the social media down in the description. If you're new here, hit that follow button up above. Also, if you're new here, if you're new to Rumble, there should be a link right underneath this video that you can sign up for Rumble Premium. Rumble Premium members can be back here 6 p.m. Central on Monday. And we're going to be basically doing a watch along with commentary on a popular, comprehensive Oklahoma City bombing documentary. And we'll be really giving a shout out to I'm not going to name the documentary here, but we will be giving a shout out to the creators of that documentary on that program. I had the fortunate opportunity to meet these gentlemen in person back in 2009, and they're good dudes. They're good dudes. Let's see, here we go. Anyway, so yeah, thanks for stopping by. Let's go find someone to raid. Let's check my feed first. Alpha Zero Mega is live doing some gaming, but I don't want to. I want to stick with politics on my politics show and gaming on my gaming show. So let's find someone. Nope, no. Cool Frog's still live. I'll send people to Cool Frog. So yeah, shout out to Cool Frog. I should have shouted him out when he. Oh, Sanglan 86 said Sarge is live. Shit, I must not have. I thought I had him subscribed, but I guess I do not. Yeah, Sarge is live. Okay. Okay, so here's what I'll do. I will take Cool Frog's link and put it in the chat, and I will raid Sarge. My feed. Where did Cool Frog go? There he is. Okay, and Cookie, if you're out there, you should follow over to Cool Frog here because Cool Frog's doing banning. Oh wait, I almost did that in Sarge's chat instead of my chat. Here, let's do this. Let's do all link to Cool Frog's channel, and then I will raid. Shit, where'd my chat go? There we go. And I will raid Sarge. So here we go. We're going to raid Sarge. Folks, as always, take care of yourselves and each other. Outlast those haters. Don't get any on you. And if you do, rub that shit in real good. I'll see you Monday night right here on Mild's Culture Plate. Take care, everybody. Good night. We